Spanish Moon. There are a number of different reasons why this bar at the base of Highland Road could be haunted, according to the employees. The manager, who claims to be a collector of stories of the strange and unusual that happened on the premises, says that he's taken it upon himself to nail down the Spanish Moon's history over the decade that he's worked there. The building has been used as a variety of things over the years, each of which has offered a little bit more to the reason that the space could be haunted. The building has been a grain mill, a feed store, a clothing store, a print shop, and a couple of other bars besides the Spanish Moon. Most notably, however, it served as a temporary morgue during the Great Mississippi Flood of 1927. The flood is considered one of the most destructive in American history. And the rising water in the river just blocks away from the Spanish Moon pressured levees to break in nearly 150 places. The flood waters caused deaths to about 250 people across the region. Those who died locally were kept in the old building on Highland until something could be done with their bodies. That's not the only reason for the spooky stories to circulate around the bar. It's said that a little girl was trampled to death by a horse when it was a feed store. And there are a couple of rumors of it being a temporary jail. There was also a period when it was vacant, basically a flop house. Who knows what could have happened inside at that time? It's really ripe with history, and you can do anything with it. The green room in the building is super haunted. So says Aaron Shrugs, the man who handles the booking for the Moon. They made them throw away the dresser because all of the bad energy was coming from that, so they threw it away. The most common stories tell of shoulders being tapped on, hearing glasses being restacked when no one else is in the building, women chatting, pool balls jumping off of the table. The owner is skeptical. Many bar patrons have left with an experience or two. The Wild Mouse. Funfair Park and its amusement rides on Florida Boulevard are long gone, but the story of the Wild Mouse still lingers in Baton Rouge. The park was a capital city mainstay in the decades between 1960 and 1999. When owner Sam Hayes moved many of the park's rides over to Dixielandin. Many believe the accident at Wild Mouse led to the park closing. That accidentally, they say, involved the decapitation of 1 or 2 people, somehow caused by the ride. Country Road magazine previously reported on the legend and noted that Franz Mack invented the wild mouse in the early 1960s in Germany. The ride made tight, flat turns and gave the rider a feeling that he or she was hanging off of the side of the track. There was not any decapitation reported on that ride. But what we do know is that a 4-year-old boy named Troy was sent to the hospital after falling out of the Wild Mouse ride in New Orleans in 1975. The child fell 25 feet to the ground, landing on his head. He is reported to be in satisfactory condition. The Devil Man. In 1938, in Aldries, the Devil Man was first spotted. It was said that he rode on the air, wrecked bars, and insulted women. He was described as having black horns, bright pink ears shaped like sunflowers, eyes like a chicken, and could shapeshift into a baboon before your eyes. He denounced himself as the devil. The story starts with a couple driving home one night. On the way home, a strange person stopped them at the intersection on the way and asked for a ride. They refused. They drove for several more miles only to see him again, walking. They got rid of the booze at this point and they drove away again. 10 more miles only to be stopped by the same stranger yet again. This time he did not ask. He simply changed into the devil before their eyes. The devil man made a last appearance to them a few miles further down the road, this time on a brown horse. The couple reported to the police, and there were stories that the police met him, fired shots only to have the bullets handed back to them by hairy hands. He then started appearing in bars around New Orleans and harassing women. Apparently he liked to party. The city was in a frenzy by this time as the tale of the devil and his drinking at certain bars. The bar was packed from then on. There was an arrest of a man from Arkansas that told the police that King Zulu, advisor to Neptune, had sent him there. On the night of September 13th, 1938, the police received over 200 calls of reports of the devil incarnate was getting free drinks at bars all over the town at the same time by showing the bartender his horns. The problem was, he was in jail. The Axeman. The Axeman was an American serial killer active in New Orleans, Louisiana, and surrounding communities from May 1918 to October 1919. The victims were usually attacked with an axe, which belonged to the victims themselves. In most cases, the bottom panel of a back door of the home was removed by a chisel, which were left on the floor near the door, followed by an attack on one or more of the residents with either an axe or a straight razor. The crimes did not seem to be motivated by robbery, as the perpetrator never removed items from the victims' homes. The majority of the Axeman's victims were Italian immigrants or Italian Americans, leading people to believe that the crimes may have been ethically motivated. Many media outlets sensationalized that the aspect of the crimes may have been mafia involved, despite lack of any evidence. Axeman killed male victims only when they obstructed his attempts to murder women, supported by cases in which the woman of the household was murdered but not the man. A less plausible theory is that the killer committed the murders in an attempt to promote jazz music, suggested by a letter that he sent stating that he would spare the lives of those who played jazz music in their homes. The Axeman was not caught or ever identified, and some even think that he is a spirit, not an actual man. Either way, the crime spree stopped as mysteriously as it had started. The killer's identity remains unknown to this day, although various plausible identifications of varying possibilities have been proposed. On March 13, 1919, a letter from the Axeman was published in newspapers saying that he would kill again at 15 minutes past midnight on the night of March 19th, but would spare the occupants any place where a jazz band was playing. That night, all of New Orleans dance halls were filled to capacity, and amateur bands played jazz at parties at hundreds of houses around town. There were no murders that night. Grunch Road. Grunch Road was located in an eastern New Orleans suburb. Most times, people driving by, families on their way to weekends, to fishing camps, or fun-filled days at Lincoln Beach Amusement Park, never noticed where Grunch Road broke away from the main road. But its location was well known to high school students in search of a secluded place to make out, or middle schoolers out on a Halloween dare, or most notably, to the lonely victim of a random flat tire forced to walk the pitch blackness in search of an open service station. People lived back there, they said. and they were a strange lot, said to be dwarves and albinos, that were forced to live back there in ramshackle trailers. This made sense, unfortunately. The vanguard of the first white flag out of the city. It made sense to group these unfortunates together off the main road out of sight. So stories grew and became local legend, and the road became a kind of sideshow attraction. High school students would show their bravery to each other simply by turning off the main road and shining high beams down the bushy darkness of Grunch Road. Sometimes they drive a little farther and scare each other silly and back out screaming with laughter. Sometimes, though, the experiences had more of a ring of truth than was comfortable. One student and his girlfriend, thinking a little wooded road, a good place to get cozy for the night out, pulled into Grunch Road out of sight of the main highway and turned off their headlights. With only the glow of the radio providing light, the two teenagers quickly worked on their own particular night moves. It wasn't long, however, before their passion was interrupted by terror. It began placidly enough, just a feeling of unease with the encompassing darkness and the chirping of crickets and night creatures. Soon, it was the oppressive silence and the bad 70s rock song. Then it was a shriek, and the teens bolted right up in the back seat of the car. From outside, all they can hear was rustling bushes, and the swaying of bushes in the pitch blackness around them. Soon they were alarmed by the sound of grunting and snuffling. A gruntle call, like what an animal would be making to another, was all it took to propel the teens over the front seat. They started the car, and it seemed like just in time, as out of the woods a white arm lurched for the passenger side door. Screaming into reverse, the car lunged out of the woods and they were finally safe on the main road. All she could say was red, over and over, red, the color of the albino's eyes, red. But it was when people started disappearing down Grunch Road that everyone finally started to take notice. It started with a goat. A goat was spotted wandering around the spot where Grunch Road intersected with Haines Boulevard. A well-meaning motorist would slow down, not wanting to kill the animal. Inevitably, the motorist would get out of the car to see if there was a way to secure the animal or lead it off of the road. Eventually, the goat would lead them from the highway and into the darkness of Grunch Road. A woman who lived near the lake pumping station reported her husband missing on a Monday night from a weekend fishing trip in the Little Woods. The New Orleans police were summoned to take all the information they could, and a squad car was dispatched to patrol the area in search of some sign of the missing man. What they found was his abandoned car, trailer, and boot still attached. Driver's side door still open and the entrance to the infamous Grunch Road. There was no sign of the man and no sign of a goat. But his haul of trout and sheephead were in a rank, in a cooler in the back of the boat. He was the first to disappear, but not the last. And finally, police gave in to the demands of the local residents and took a ride down Grunch Road. What they found was never documented in any police report, but first-hand reports from the officers themselves confirmed at least the worst fears about who was living back there. Red eyes peered from the trailer windows, and dwarves huddled around trash fires looked up warily. But beyond the unusual occupants, nothing out of the ordinary was found. But this didn't keep the legend from growing, and the sightings of the goat along Haines Boulevard continued well into the 1980s, when process and explanation tore the green woods down and drove out the remnant society that had grown in secret in the dead end of Grunch Road. At the dead end of Grunch Road. To this day, however, local residents still warn, if you see a stray goat waiting on the side of the road, don't stop Whatever you do, don't stop.